Hello and welcome to today's episode of Rainer on Leadership, your online home for leadership lessons and advice for the local church. I'm your host, Sam Rainer. I have with me the founder and CEO of Church Answers, Tom Rainer. And
I did the hello just like Jonathan.
I know.
You said hello. It had the Jonathan hello to it.
I keep the tradition going. I don't have his voice, and I know that. He's just got an incredible radio voice.
No Rainer has Jonathan's voice.
No. We had him back on a while back. So if you haven't, if you've been with us a long time, obviously I had to replace Jonathan, unfortunately, for our listeners. But
not at all.
But we did have him back on the show, and if you haven't heard that episode, you should definitely go back and listen to it. And we have to bring him back again.
Yes.
I mean, he was just such a feature of Rainer on Leadership, and I tried to just carry forth the tradition.
He was the perfect straight guy for me. The fall guy.
Yeah. Okay. Yeah. I was going to make a comment about him being straight, but it would have been a bad joke.
Fall guy. He was the perfect fall guy.
He was your Ed McMahon.
Yes, he was, and I tried to be Johnny Carson, not always successful.
What did Ed McMahon? What did Ed McMahon used to do? Hey-o. Is that hey-o? Hey-o. We should start doing that. We need a little button. And if somebody makes a really good joke, be like, hey-o. All right, we're losing people,
and the listeners and viewers have no idea what we're talking about.
I think most of our listeners,
they're old.
No, I know Ed McMahon. I think most do. We're talking about transparency today, and what you have to gain with transparency, and what you have to lose when you're secretive and you're not transparent. But before we get into this, I certainly want to thank our sponsor, Southeastern Seminary. And the great leader, Dr. Danny Aiken, who is the president there. Follow him on social media if you're not. Southeastern is committed to helping you get the training you need to pursue your ministry from anywhere around the world. They're waiving the application fee, so if you go to sebts.edu and you go through their application process, use that coupon code CHURCHANSWERS, one word, plural, and they will waive the fee. Southeastern is the seminary where you're not just going to get theological education. They do that well, but you're also going to get ministry preparation. So no matter what stage of life's journey you find yourself in, they can help you take that next step to get equipped so that you can disciple and teach others how to make disciples within the church. It's a great institution, so you can go explore their degrees, schedule a visit, apply online at sebts.edu. Use that coupon code CHURCHANSWERS at checkout. Oh, you got the hey-o. There we go. Yeah, okay. So is it an app? I don't know if our listeners can hear that or not, but I can certainly hear it. We'll have to make sure that they hear that on the audio.
I got to put it on the speaker here. Come on. Come on.
Is that really him?
Yes.
Okay.
It's really
Where did you find? Is that an app or is that on YouTube? Where'd you find that?
That's on YouTube.
Okay, I figured as much. All right, so we now have our Ed McMahon heyo. I don't even know what to say to that.
And it's actually HYHIYO. Hi-oh.
Oh, okay. Well, I wouldn't know. I was too young to watch Johnny Carson. I have some very vague memories of maybe some episodes. But for the most part, it was before my time. But I do know who he is, and I do know the hey-o.
Yes. So we're going to talk about transparency.
Yeah, I mean, unless you're working for the CIA, transparency should be one of the top characteristics that you should expect of your leaders. And understandably, there are things that you can't share. Like if you have a counseling session with somebody and they share some things with you and you don't go around airing everyone's dirty laundry. But I would say this, I think our problems are more on the lack of transparency side than anything else. And healthy leaders are transparent. And there is a lot to gain when you are transparent. There's a lot to lose when you are secretive. So obviously you want to be transparent because it's the right thing. But practically speaking, there's more to gain with transparency than there is to lose. And why do you think leaders mess that up, Dad?
Well, I'll answer that question, but I'm in another world right now, so I have to get my other thought out. Then we'll talk about why do leaders do that. I'm thinking about the Rayner transparency scale,
Oh,
and and I think you and I would be at the top of the scale.
I overshare.
Yep, and I would be close to you. The reason that I don't overshare is because I don't talk as much as you do. But if I did, I would overshare. And so you got the two older ones that are there, but then you get to Art, and I think Art is the least transparent. Not in a bad way. He's just circumspect. So
Yes,
you disagree?
I agree.
And one of the reasons Art is not as transparent as the rest of us is he doesn't return our calls. He doesn't return our texts. We never hear from him anyway.
Yeah, unless Art will respond if you say, "Hey, I need some financial advice," and then he's
And just like that,
he's all
yeah, you know,
he's all over.
like the time I text that I said I think I'm dying. He was back with me about 4 days later. But then I said, "Hey, I got a financial question." 3 seconds, boom, he's there.
Yeah, Art is. I won't say he lacks transparency. I'd say he's more reserved and more circumspect. So this is a very good point. Just because you don't talk a lot, just because you're reserved, just because you're circumspect, does not mean that you lack transparency. To use a double negative, you're
When you say I'm largely transparent, even though I'm an introvert,
yes. Oh yeah, yeah. If people want to know how you feel or think, you're more than willing to share.
oh yeah. And
I,
as a matter of fact, I had an incredible video crew. I worked with them for 3 days recently, and they would ask me questions, and they said I'm the first person that ever answered them truthfully, and we don't know if we like it. Of course, it was in good humor.
yeah.
Hey, you you want to do this right now? No. Did you like this? No. Well, do you want to qualify? You tell us why? No, not really. I just want to do it.
And I'd say the difference between you and I, you and me, you and I,
Me.
me, yes, objective pronoun, is when people ask, you're willing to share. I just share, whether
Yes,
people ask or not.
that is true. That is true. And you'll share redundantly. You won't just share.
I will. Yeah. Yes.
Yes.
But I have a lot of children, so I'm used to repeating myself a lot. So it just carries over into my life. Did you
Yes,
hear
you
this?
do.
Did you hear this? Did you do this? Did you do this? Yes. So let's get into the content here. Transparent leaders encourage generosity. Secretive leaders will raise unnecessary financial questions.
If you are a secretive person, unless you're a despot, you are not going to lead an organization, particularly a church, to be generous because they are not going to trust you. If you are transparent, they're going to trust you. You know, Mike Stottlemyre, Church Growth
Oh, church growth
Services.
services. Yeah.
One of the things I love about how he interacts with people, he is just incredibly transparent in how he interacts with churches. He's incredibly transparent. So, when they bring Church Growth Services along to do a stewardship campaign, a budget campaign, a capital campaign, you just talk with Mike and you say, okay, this guy is real. He is transparent, and it just leads the way for the whole church to be. But I'll get off on another path, Sam. You want to talk about this in a specific question?
Well, I think if you're struggling in this area, Mike would be a good one to contact. Mike at churchgrowthservices.com. Go check him
Okay. Since
out.
I brought it up, we can put it in the show notes. All
Yeah,
right.
put it in the show notes. And if you need help with financial stuff in the church, I'd just say give him a call. When you are secretive about financial matters as it pertains to the church, so we're talking specifically the church, but this could apply to any organization. You leave yourself open to unnecessary questions. Like there's
Yes.
no reason to hide anything. And if you are being secretive, then am I using this appropriately? It begs the question, well, what are you hiding?
You used it very well.
People
Exactly.
didn't have questions before. They had no concerns before. But now, because you're being so secretive, it creates other issues for you. And when you are just naturally transparent, regularly transparent, you create a climate and a culture within your church that people are just willing to give and to give more generously because they don't have questions. What you don't want in your church is this this climate of questions when it comes to, the finances, because that means that people are pouring their energy into speculating about what's going on instead of pouring their energy into, hey, we just want to give to the church because we believe in what's happening. So there is no reason to hold back. I think every church, we've mentioned this on many episodes, I know, produce quarterly financial statements, and hand them out. They can be basic, it doesn't have to be a balance sheet every time. Just
In fact, if it's basic, it's usually more
probably
transparent.
better. Yeah. Have your revenue, have your expenses, just, basic categories, and tell people every quarter, here's how we did. And proactively do that. If you proactively do it, then you squelch 99% of your questions that are going to come up. And don't hide your budget process when you go through the budget process. Just be clear about, here's how we set a budget. Not every church votes on a budget. I know that, but just be clear with the people in your church. Here's how we do it. Be clear about your process. No reason to be transparent, particularly with a nonprofit. I mean, even from a secular perspective, why on earth would you be secretive about this? So a lot to gain with transparency when it comes to financial matters, a lot to lose with being secretive.
And when you are not transparent, the church is less likely to follow you on a faith step or to take risk, because transparency engenders trust. Faith or risk steps it is adamant that those who are following trust you. So if you've destroyed that trust factor and it comes time to say, hey, folks, we need to step out on faith and do this, they're going to say, why should we step out with you? We don't even know what's going on.
Yeah. Which gets us to our second point. Transparent leaders encourage the church to take risks, while
I was on the second point.
While secretive leaders make people afraid
talking about the second point
to fail.
That's what I was talking about, the second point.
Yeah. Yeah, you actually are able to take more risks when you're transparent. And when you're secretive, you tend to make people when you're secretive, you engender fear. Let me put it that way. People are more, and doubt. Yeah, fear and doubt.
Yep.
Have you ever
totally agree?
Have you ever taken a big risk? Have you ever led a church into a riskier endeavor?
Well, you know my story. 1991, nobody knew of very few people ever heard of a multi-site church. I mean, 1991. Today it's, there's another multi-site church. And I led my church to become multi-site. And I didn't think it was any big deal. I just said, we're going to have two locations because we're out of space at one. Just kind of common sense. And we're going to be 4 miles south of where we are. And we leased out several storefronts and we opened a South Campus. I guess it was a risk, but I would later find out that a lot of people were saying, what are we doing? We have never done it that way.
But now
before.
You're considered the founding pastor of that, what is now a separate church.
Yeah, I know.
I mean, they have a big giant portrait hanging, of you hanging up. Like,
now, I don't know about that, but
I'm making that up. I'm totally making that up.
I remember the time when Amy and I were working at Lifeway together, and she gives me an invitation, and she'd go over all the invitations with me. And this particular invitation said, we want you to come back for whatever anniversary it is as our founding pastor. And I don't know if Amy asked me the question, but probably going on in her mind, I didn't know you were the founding pastor of any church. Well, I didn't know I was the founding pastor of the church either.
You didn't know either.
The church, the campus that I had started had moved autonomous. Both the mother church, the original church, was fine with it, and it moved autonomous. And I was their first pastor, so I was their founding pastor. I had no idea. So
I think it's great. I would say one of the biggest risks that a lot of churches take are capital campaigns, building buildings, things like that. Which, by the way, Mike at Church Go Services can help you with.
There's another good reason to call Mike.
Yeah, if you if you're looking to do something with your campus or build a new campus or renovate or anything like that, and you're going to need some financial help, he'd be a good one to contact. So I would say that's the biggest risk that I've led a church into was a big capital campaign to renovate our campus here at West Braden. Didn't work out. But if you are secretive, it's very hard to convince people to take those risks. That's the point. You're just gonna engender fear.
You did a good job of creating pain if they did not change. What's the color of that carpet?
Well, I didn't have to create the pain. The pain was already there. It's
You made them aware of how bad it was.
well, yes.
You said many times, look at this putrid carpet.
Right. And there was a story behind that carpet, and I was able to say that because the people that picked out the color were no longer at the church. So I was not hurting anybody's feelings. But yes, Bradenton Plum was the official color. They created a custom color for our church. They called it Bradenton Plum, but it just became faded pink is what it became.
Faded, dirty pink.
It was, yeah, that's a whole nother podcast is how disgusting everything was. But moving on, transparent leaders encourage levity. While secretive leaders create channels of gossip and rumors. If you are transparent, you're more inclined to have people laughing with you than talking behind your back. It's when you're always going to have gossip in the church, and as a leader, you're always going to be the target of somebody's comments. But you create more pain for yourself when you are secretive because you open up channels of gossip. You open up channels of rumors when you don't communicate with people.
I love watching you three Rainer boy sons because levity is a part of all of what y'all do, and especially when you're together.
You have to laugh at life.
Yeah.
In your life. I mean,
y'all have to laugh at each other too.
Well, yes, because my brothers are funny looking, so I laugh at them all the time.
Well, you remind Art that he's the only one that's fallen short of 6 feet.
True,
but they remind you that most people can't get a word in edgewise when they're around you, and that you're very intense, very intense.
I had a lunch with a pastor. It was yesterday at the time of this recording, and I had to stop halfway through because we had just really, I mean, he's new to the area, and I was like, just so you know, I'm intense. And he goes, I can tell. It was, I'm sorry if I come across this way. In my own head, I'm just being normal, and this is normal to me, but most people think I'm intense. And he goes, yeah, I can see that.
And what you older brothers do to your youngest brother is you remember so many things about him when he was young, whether it's the shiny penny or he has to sleep with mom or dad or whatever the case may be.
Well, he finally stopped. I mean, he finally stopped crawling in your bed when he was around, 15. So
17.
I'm glad that worked.
Move over, Dad.
We're about to go down. We're about to go down a trail that we don't want to go down.
It is reinforcing the point of levity.
Yes, yeah, and that is one of the positive aspects of transparency. Is people learn to just laugh, and you create a culture of levity rather than a culture of gossip and rumors. This last point, I think, is a very good and important point. Transparent leaders encourage accountability, while secretive leaders breed a culture of distrust.
So what you're saying is when someone is transparent, they are more likely to be accountable themselves.
I think that you encourage a culture of accountability, people holding you accountable, the ability to hold others accountable. When you're transparent and open with people, they're more willing to hear from you about any number of things, including you calling them out. And if you're willing to be called out yourself, well, that also creates more trust within the church. When you're transparent, you're more inclined to create systems of accountability because everyone's clear, everyone understands, the expectations are set, and many times the consequences are set. So you're able to hold people accountable. But what secretive leaders do is they breed this culture of distrust. If you're not open about what is expected or what is not expected, well, people don't know. And that just creates a climate of not being able to trust other people.
If the listeners and viewers want to read a fun book on levity, I would recommend a pretty old book. It was written in 2008. It is called The Levity Effect.
It's a good book.
In fact, I gave you I think I gave all of you boys a copy of it. Adrian Gostick and Scott Christopher wrote it. And I would recommend that book because it's research that demonstrates levity engenders a healthy organization and family.
Mm-hmm. Yeah, I don't think you can have a healthy church without levity. You remove levity, and I think that you take a notch, you go down a notch on the church health scale.
Do you remember what was on the cover of that book?
I don't. I can see. Oh, it was the teeth. I'm looking.
Yeah,
For those of you watching on YouTube, I'm looking over my shoulder here because at my shelf, it's the little chattering
it was the
teeth,
chattering teeth. Yeah, yeah,
which
yeah.
somebody gave me, like a real one. You wind them up and they chatter. Somebody gave me that.
People don't need to give you a mouth that's always moving.
I know. I got the joke. They gave it to me, and it's basically like I want to bring it to staff meetings so that whenever I would say somebody talks too much, but it'd be me. You wind it up, and you just the chattering teeth. It's like it's time to stop.
Who is your most laughable? No, laughable would be the bad adjective. Who practices levity the most on your staff other than you? Since I know all of them.
They all like to laugh.
Yeah. Does anybody lead more than the others, or is it always you and they're laughing at you?
Well, I would say that I'm the butt of many jokes, and I'm okay with that. Probably Pastor Devon, but they're all able to have a lot of fun. But he's just got a good laugh. He's always willing to laugh. He's a good guy.
He's a great addition to the staff. He's been there about 2 years now.
A couple years now, yeah.
Yeah.
Yeah, he
That's
can do it
great.
all. He can preach. He can lead worship. He's our student pastor. He's just one of those guys. He can do it all.
Yep.
Well, we want to thank. If you're looking for encouragement, go to Tyndale. They have the Dayspring Hope and Encouragement Bible. Dayspring and Tyndale have partnered together to bring you this encouraging Bible in the New Living Translation, NLT.
New Living Translation, number 2
It's
translation.
I know. It's gaining, and it was already a very popular translation, but even more people are discovering how solid it is. It's accurate, but then it's so readable.
That's what people are discovering more now, and it's the accuracy of it.
Mm-hmm.
And it's pretty well known of high readability, but now you're hearing a lot more. It's not only readable, it is really accurate.
Honestly, Tyndale doesn't talk enough about the accuracy. It's known for its readability, but
They leave it to Rainers to talk a lot.
Well, that's all right. I'll mention it for them because I preach from it. I do my devotionals in it, and I find it to be a very useful translation. But they have the Dayspring Hope and Encouragement Bible, and this Bible amplifies 12 indisputable truths about who you are in Christ, such as you're known, you are blessed, you have a reason for hope. And these truths help you to recognize and embrace your treasured place in God's heart. So armed with this knowledge, you will be able to face any challenge, step into your toughest calling, and live the adventure that God has called you. It's got so much in it. Again, this is the Dayspring Hope and Encouragement Bible. They've got 250 reflections, 52 full-page devotionals, full color interior. Check it out. Link in the show notes. Would love for you to go see what they have to offer at Tyndale. And while you're looking for the Dayspring Hope and Encouragement Bible, just shop around at Tyndale. They've got a lot of great resources for the church and for you. Thanks again for joining us today here on Rainer on Leadership. Be sure to watch on YouTube, subscribe on iTunes, Google Podcasts, Spotify, or in your favorite podcasting app, and join us online at churchanswers.com, where we are growing healthy churches together.